Today on Capstone Talent Talks, Ollie and I are excited to be joined by Michael Martin, Design Director at Echelon Data Centres. Michael is right at the cutting edge of one of the biggest challenges in our industry, how to design data centres for a world that's shifting faster than ever. With AI already reshaping demand and quantum computing on the horizon, design principles are being rewritten in real time. Michael brings over 2 decades of experience across infrastructure and mission-critical environments, and now leads design strategy and delivery across Echelon's portfolio. As a certified project management professional, member of the Royal Institute of Architecture of Ireland and an Uptime Institute-accredited tier designer, but above all, he's someone who understands the urgent balancing act between performance, sustainability, scale and future-proofing. Thanks for joining us, Michael. We're really pleased to have you.
So, Sarah, thanks very much for having me on, and Ollie as well. Thanks.
So let's start talking about your career. How on earth have you got to be design director at Echelon? Talk us from the start, because the aim of this is to kind of lift the bonnet on how people ended up where they are. We so often see the shiny bios, but we're keen to really unearth what got you to this point.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, I suppose my career started as an architect. I suppose I still carried a lot of the learnings and experience from that to where I'm at the moment. Probably kind of uniquely or kind of different to many other directors of design in other data center companies. They would have a much more mechanical, electrical kind of bias, training and expertise. I'd have the principles in that, but my background is architecture. So that's where I started out, studied architecture, spent a couple of years working as a project architect. As it happens, then recession came in Ireland. It was pretty, in Ireland in particular, because we were so reliant on the construction industry, it hit us exceptionally hard. Most people, like in the industry, it's fair to say, kind of lost their jobs. I did too. So that was about November 2008. So after working for so long to become an architect, I actually got my chartership in the same week that I got my P45 that I was made redundant. So that was kind of my plans to become an architect, and my aspirations were kind of in shreds. I needed to rethink. So I worked very hard to find a job in project management, which I worked in the public sector for a couple of years. That got me through the recession. But what it did do as well, I did project management training off my own bat. I saw that, look, I needed to kind of adapt and survive. So I also went on, and fortunately I was able to get a scholarship as well for an MBA. So I spent the time kind of really upskilling and trying to improve. So with all of that, I suppose around 2015, my former employer, Jan van Dijk, he had work in Saudi Arabia and he was working on some mega projects out there, needed somebody to lead design. So at that point, it was great. Like, I was then coming with, the architecture and design background, but also the project management and MBA experience that I'd had in the interim period. So it was a kind of Saudi was quite different at that time, very different. So I moved there. I spent a year in Riyadh, leading those projects. Like, that was we had kind of a third of the design across a $3.2 billion project, which at the time is kind of unheard of. Project of that scale. Data center industry now, like, it's a kind of it's probably pocket change compared to some of the figures you see in the news. But it was a huge task, and it was an incredible kind of learning curve. It was a real challenge. you know,
It wasn't a
from
data. Was it a data center? No,
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 no.
no, no. This was large infrastructure. It was mainly actually security facilities,
Okay.
and but there was a lot of that was mission critical as well. There was actually some data centers within that, but at a much smaller scale than what we're working at today. Um, so yeah, and my family were back in Ireland, and that was all a challenge. So brought them all out and moved to Bahrain. Spent a couple of years out there and working on again large infrastructure projects across the Middle East. Uh, so yeah, I was getting, really good cross-disciplinary experience as well, right through that period, working with, civil structures, mechanical, electrical, ICT, security, everything that I'm dealing with on a day-to-day basis now. So the reason I suppose I highlight all of that is, there's some people might be thinking about, getting into the data center industry, how do I get in? But if you have experience, some multidisciplinary experience, wherever that might be, that will certainly help. If you've got, infrastructure experience, that will certainly help. So you don't necessarily have to be, have data center experience to get into the data center, chicken and egg scenario.
Yeah.
So yeah, after I returned to Ireland about 2019, end of 2019, start 2020. And so I started to work on large infrastructure projects again here, again as design consultancy. And just about 18 months ago, then I had I started working on data centers then just before probably about 5 years working on data centers now, which isn't a lot compared to some people, but it's a lot more than others, I suppose, in the industry at the moment because
So
it's growing so rapidly.
did you start the data center work? Sorry to interrupt you. I didn't mean to do that. Did you start the data center piece when you were with AECOM?
Correct. Yeah, so I started I bridged from the large infra and leading design on large infrastructure projects into data centers and working. We were doing a lot of work for hyperscale and colo clients, and I was basically leading design on their projects. And then I kind of, got promoted to a regional director role and started to have, an oversight role on, several design projects in parallel. So that's kind of what led me to Echelon Data Centres. I basically started there about 18 months ago as director of design, and all going well so far, thankfully.
And
Amazing.
did you find that sort of transition to more of a DC focus was quite organic? It just sort of things sort of moved in that direction, or did you find that actually that was clear that was what was needed, actually a focus in that direction, and because you had a bit of context on that from the time in the Middle East, that meant you were the best, the best choice over AECOM, for example. Is that how that came about, or was it just a bit more sort of organic? It sort of, that's how things ended up there.
Yeah, it was a little bit organic, but I had an interest in the data center sector. I could see what was happening, but the thing that probably attracted me so much was I could see it was really fast paced. I could see it was technically challenging, it was just a really, really interesting space to be in, and something I felt I'd be quite good at. I'd be able to add some value. Um, also as well, I've been working on large infrastructure projects as well, where you know they may have been of the same value of some of the data center developments that I ended up working on, but they were taking twice or three times the amount of time to deliver, and so much kind of chopping and changing and indecision. And whereas when you're dealing with data center clients, they need to get it done. There's a demand for data center space for at the time cloud compute predominantly, and now cloud with AI. and you know, variance. But you know, I knew that it was fast paced, it was going to be exciting, and you know, I felt it'd be a good fit, so I was looking to get a piece of it. So that's it. Yeah, like if there is anybody out there who's like looking to move into the data center industry, I'd certainly recommend it very highly. If you want a challenge, you know, if you are excited by, you know, dealing with lots of people from various different technical backgrounds, across various geographies, and you know, there is kind of new innovative developing technologies all the time. So, you know, there can be moving goalposts, but you know, it's about being kind of agile and you know, just being you know, being proactive and you know, enjoying the work. Like you really will get through it and enjoy it.
That proactive point is interesting. I'm just thinking about, again, your own sort of pathway and some of those points along the way there that probably presented a bit of a challenge at the time, but because of actually how you took that on, it's quite interesting how that then, you know, moved things forward for you. So, you know, when it was the GFC and you know, some of the challenges there, actually it's okay, well, you know, let's move on to the front foot here. How can I then address this situation to kind of get that to the next place? That then obviously moved on, an MBA and so on, and then out to the Middle East and so on and so forth. So that's quite an interesting point there, I suppose, in terms of that kind of open-mindedness and proactivity about how you can try and make something work as well.
Like, I suppose that's just my nature. I suppose I really like a challenge. I get bored very quickly if I don't have one. And you know, I'm not crazy or anything, but like I do like a challenge. You know, I mean, what I'm saying is, if on the other hand, if there were people who were more happy with an easier going, kind of more reliable, you know, 9 to 5, then maybe the data center industry isn't the best place for you. But you know, there certainly is balance can be achieved in the data center industry as well. By the way, it's not just all it's not the Wild West, but there are certainly it can be demanding, and it'll be, you know, it can be as crazy as you let it be, you know. So you know, you need to apply the balance, but the more you can take on, the more you'll probably the more of a challenge that you can take on, the more that you'll probably be able to progress within the sector.
Well, there's always something to be done, and I think if you moved, you know, if you were attracted by the pace, you know, the pace 5 years ago will be significantly different to the pace that you're working to now, I would imagine. So Michael, in terms of the role that you're on at the moment, are you very much on the construction and structures side as well as M&E, or is that divided out in terms of your role? Have you got the overarching design oversight?
Yeah, so within our business, we've got design for energy systems like substations and energy centers. Energy centers are feature prominently particularly in our Irish developments. We have a separate team leading them, and Cormac Nevin is our head of energy systems, and an incredible guy in many ways. Like, you know, his thought leadership has been absolutely central to our ability to secure power and develop sites. But Cormac and his team are leading the design on all of the energy systems. So my role is, you know, specifically on data centers, and the data center sites and the immediate infrastructure to support them. So yeah, like my remit is we've got sites right across Ireland, UK, Europe, and we're also developing work. We've completed design on some sites in the US as well. So yeah, that's essentially my remit. My remit kind of covers all disciplines, whatever is required to produce design. I work very closely with as head of design, part of the delivery group within Echelon Data Centres. So I work very closely with the head of procurement, head of construction, head of operations, head of health and safety. So yeah, like my role I see is really just to make sure that we're passing on design to our construction teams, which is as constructible as possible, is safe, as well as working very closely with our health and safety lead. Then to make sure as well that it's commissionable and that it's operable, because ultimately, we want assets that are going to be that are going to operate well with lots of with appropriate redundancy built into them to ensure uptime right across that life cycle. So yeah, there's quite a bit happening.
Certainly is. And so given that, I imagine from a design perspective, balancing pace with ultimately designing something that's going to be useful and have a legacy and longevity, how are you balancing that at the moment? Because that must be really hard, because you can't, I would imagine, I'm not a technical expert, but I would imagine that you're scoping design with customers who, I mean, nobody knows what's going to be needed. Obviously we can have educated guesses, but how are you building in flexibility to your design, I suppose, is my question.
$1 million, probably actually $1 trillion question.
Thank you.
But yeah, so that's like we've had, clearly all data center operators, hyperscalers for their self builds, and colo providers were, everybody's trying to develop reference designs. Reference designs are, great. You're able to replicate, it allows scalability, efficiency, speed to deliver ready for service holes. The challenge is, as you said, in a world where AI has now, over the last probably 2 years, really there's been some major rethinking going on over that period. There's a lot of the hyperscalers who are, it's their compute strategies, it's their they're the probably some of the biggest, most powerful, companies in the world, and they've got the best minds working on this, and they've been working for some time to basically figure out, what is essentially the kind of growth trajectory. How is AI going to be deployed? What will the world be like in 5 years, 10 years? It's 10 years is probably like just anything. It could be anything. 5 years is probably more manageable. So their exact approach to it, only they will know, and they're very guarded about it. But what we've been doing is working very closely with them to try and work through, like they're essentially our primary tenants, to work with them to understand what their requirements are and how we can have designs that will work for them. So then ultimately what you're trying to do is have reference designs that have some flexibility in them, so they're not bound too tightly to any given tenant, and having all your eggs in one basket. But there has to be some flexibility for kind of further deployment of AI and flexibility within those data centers. So probably won't go into it in a lot more detail than that without kind of giving away things I could get in trouble for. But yeah, like I think above all, we need to be agile, and we need to have good close relationships with our customers, which we have, and work with them to find solutions. So That's exactly what we're doing.
And when you then sort of add into the mix quantum computing as well, that's another period of time where obviously I can imagine you could probably spend a fair bit of time head scratching.
Yeah, and I'm doing a bit of head scratching on that at the moment. And like with high performance compute, and there's various other kind of newer kind of uh data center clients entering the market that have, high performance compute is essential to what they do basically. So we're working through how we can provide data centers to support their requirements as well. So yeah, there's kind of there's quite a bit happening.
And given that 10 years is maybe that as a time horizon is a bit too far, so 5 years maybe is a bit more manageable, and you can kind of maybe sort of look ahead 5 years and consider what that picture might look like. And because no doubt a lot of those things are in spades are in the ground now, and so on.
Yep.
In terms of talent and challenges when it comes to that next sort of 5-year period and skill set and so on, how do you see that in terms of what organizations maybe could be doing, should be doing now in order to kind of over the next 3 to 5 years really be in a position where hopefully then we get to that point, and actually that 10-year horizon from now is actually only 5 years away, and perhaps we're in a stronger position. Have you got any thoughts on that?
In terms of how do we develop and grow resources to basically support this journey? It's a really good question, and that everybody in the industry is being affected by it, clearly. So when I was starting in the data center industry, there was more of a kind of a chicken and egg scenario where you couldn't really get your foot in the door unless you had data center experience. We clearly have to look outside that. Yes, it was a thing. We need to continue to develop uh, the resources and talent that we actually have within the data center industry as it is, because challenges are becoming bigger and more complex. So you don't just get in the door and then you stop at that. You just do your job. We also need to kind of we also need to it needs to be a kind of a continuous training and learning for everybody, very much myself included. So then, like with new resources and attracting them, bringing them in. So like again, we need to just look at, well, where are there parallels or transferable skill sets? And when we're interviewing people, look past the fact that they might not be the strongest with electrical engineering, or that they're they may not have strong project management experience, to deliver design. That's something that can be trained. So, I think it's it is, I think a lot of it is about understanding that technical expertise can be trained. If you've got the right person who has the aptitude and the interest and the motivation to take it on. Like if they have a track record of high performance, and you can see that they're committed, then you know that they'll have the commitment to take on that knowledge and continue their high performance. So that's really it. I was in did a site visit there, or a factory visit to um, a vendor yesterday, an electrical vendor, to do electrical equipment basically from end to end, and they're having the same challenge. What they've done is they're setting up academies, and they're bringing in people who from various different backgrounds, like in many ways not uh, not really that related. to electrical equipment manufacturing, but they're providing them with very, very good hands-on training and mentorship and kind of buddying systems, and and quality checking and assurance. So like that's on the in a kind of a manufacturing context, but there's no reason we can't do that, in terms of within data center companies, right across all business functions, and within our design consultants that I'd be dealing with, quite directly more directly as well.
I was going to say, how are you balancing pipelining future talent and nurturing those skills and PRing effectively, or rather unveiling what a data center actually is to, the younger generation who no one, well, not even the younger generation, anyone, not many people know what a data center is. So how do you balance your long-term pipelining with the immediate, I mean, there might not be a burning hole, but the immediate need for talent, resource, diversity of thought? I would imagine some of that's going to be, I don't know what functions you have internally, but presumably you've got close partnerships with consultancies and designers and architects and, the like externally.
Yeah, so clearly that's I think we are getting better, but I still have a lot of work to do in terms of helping the general public understand what data centers are and their importance. And similarly, in terms of attracting talent, certainly we have internships within our business, and we're certainly trying to market Echelon Data Centres, but also data centers in general for and the benefits of them for public benefit. You will see certainly a lot of design consultancies now are reaching out to universities and even secondary schools, and doing kind of STEM programs and various other initiatives, which are really, really positive. That the more of that we can do, the more certainly that will bring about the an interest in it. We've got a really good transition year program. Transition year is basically in Ireland, it's kind of between your GCSEs and A levels and or the junior cert and leaving cert in Ireland. That equivalent. So we were bringing in secondary school students and giving them a 360-degree view of the what we actually do, everything from
Amazing.
Site selection right through design, construction, commissioning, ops, but also the kind of the finance and administration and governance side of the business, and policy and legal, and so they're leaving with a 360-degree view and understanding as well, like that you know data centers isn't just about engineering. You don't have to be like a whiz engineer. There's so many other opportunities and so many other skill sets that can bring you into and aptitudes that can bring you into the data center space.
That's a brilliant initiative, and all of these things are great, aren't they? And they take a little bit of time, just purely because of the age of the people that are going through it. But again, we think about that 5-year horizon, for example, and actually with the momentum that I think is building in terms of that broader education piece around actually the awareness more publicly around data centers, through what we're doing right now and a whole heap of other things, obviously. And then you have programs such as that you talked about there, and actually, fast forward 5 years, and we may well be in a very different place for the positive, because actually there's so much more awareness and understanding. But equally, people have gone through those sorts of programs and apprenticeships, internships, academies and partnerships with universities and so on and so forth. That it feels like the future is bright from that perspective, albeit clearly these things take time.
And like even in Echelon Data Centres, or like joint CEOs Niall Malloy and Graham Williams, they made time to spend time on our transition year with our program. Spent a lot of time, preparing it, invested a huge amount, and meeting everybody, and just explaining to them what they do. And it just shows you, like, in a lot of our C-suite, they were all involved in in those engagements. Like we really are kind of committed to developing younger talent and their interest in the data center space. But it just shows you, like, perhaps um, you know the hyperscale data center operators and cloud providers may not be able to give the time of their CEOs to transition year kids, but and our CEOs, I can assure you, are extremely busy. But it just does show you the kind of level of commitment that they have, which I think is pretty admirable.
I think it brings a human element to what's traditionally not a human sector, whereas it is fundamentally, human led. What about, I mean, that's incredible, the work that Echelon are doing. What about collective impact in terms of the industry as a whole? Do you think our perception is in terms of networking and people being open? We find people incredibly generous with their time, and bringing communities together within the data center world. But I wonder whether is there an opportunity for more collective impact when it comes to talent, do you think? So bring in more operators, developers, everybody from the kind of the supply chain together to tackle the talent topic.
That's a really good question. For years there was open compute, where, like, some really, like, otherwise closely guarded. There still is a lot of closely guarded compute, clearly, but the open compute strategy has been like such an immensely positive initiative. There is an opportunity to do something similar where data center companies actually club together and see how can we do this, and as an industry, and maybe some of the industry bodies as well could perhaps spearhead that. There are some really good industry bodies, and even country specific. They carry some weight, and they're very effective in supporting the data center industry. But perhaps that's something that to be really, really positive for them to invest some more time in.
Yeah.
And again, everything they do is with the support of the data center customers. Excuse me. And so, like, there'd certainly be a huge win-win there if we could do that. Like that's a really good suggestion, Sarah.
I mean, we were in Amsterdam last week for the Data Center Expo in Europe, and I was just sitting on all of Ollie was on a panel talking about talent, and I was sitting there listening to these amazing minds, and they've got a problem, and surprise, surprise, they've got the same problem, and oh my gosh, look, this guy's coming in, they've got the same problem, and I'm like, why are we not bringing people together to do something? And I think traditionally, we worked with a data center scale up a couple of years ago, and we're bringing in a lot of their founding team, and we were going at 90 miles an hour, but it was crazy how they couldn't tell me where the data, it was so closed, it was such a tightly kept, well, we can't tell you where the data centers are. I was like, okay, well, so if this talent's going to be based across 4 continents, like I need a bit more intel so that I can at least narrow the search slightly. And it is much more open now, but I think we can go further. And then my mind just starts going, because I'm obsessed with talent, and I'm like, we can do something here. Like, we need to just start those conversations.
Yeah, I agree. Look, there's clearly still a lot of confidentiality required in some
course.
aspects of the industry, and with very, very good reason, and that like really needs to be, you know, respected. That's certainly something that Echelon Data Centres do. But there was certainly a culture previously, because there were so many things that were confidential that nothing else could be spoken of.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, there is, I suppose, we still need to be very vigilant in terms of what is important confidentiality, from a confidentiality perspective, but be far more open and collaborative. And, you know, while there's competition between various organizations, it's in our shared interest. You know, they can still compete in other ways with their unique selling points, but shared benefit of getting good resources into their companies. So yeah, look, there's you guys are
To
at the
be
cold face on that
continued.
one, and
Yeah.
yes, yeah. There's yeah, it's not there's no kind of silver bullet on that one, unfortunately. But yeah, like there definitely is scope for more openness and collaboration
Yeah.
to support our growing needs.
It's better than
If-
robbing Peter to pay Paul with the same talent pool. Like, that's just
Yeah,
completely ludicrous, you know, because the only
yeah,
person that wins is talent who gradually gets paid more and more and more. But actually, you know,
yeah.
we've got an aging workforce in the data center world relatively. So we need a bit of fresh blood. So it'll be good. So what's your outlook in over the next 5 years? What are you excited about? Not necessarily just on the talent front, but what are you, and obviously, you know, respecting confidentiality and stuff, but you know, when we're looking at the industry, and what am I asking here? What is it about the industry that isn't obvious that you're excited about and that you think that message should get out there?
The thing that I'm most excited about is the direction that Echelon Data Centres is going. You know, it was announced yesterday, we're entering the Milan market.
It's great.
There's that's actually, I've been over there for 12 months now, and really kind of seeing that, you know, come to fruition about halfway through detailed design.
Amazing.
Um, that's really, really positive. It's really energizing, you know, to kind of see that, you know, people's hard work is being realized. Um, but you know, we're also going to be entering the Spanish market. We announced a couple of weeks ago our joint venture partnership with Iberdrola, the largest utility provider in Spain, which is extremely positive. It's an amazing initiative like that. You know, is the envy of many others, for understandable reasons.
Yeah.
But you know, so we're expanding. You know, there's other sites and jurisdictions in Europe that you'll see us in a not too distant future, and our presence, we're continuing to build as well in the US. So that's what really excites me, is that um, the opportunity is there, and we're going to be, you know, we're going to be continuing to support our customers, to provide them with, you know, data center space, secure data center space that they need to meet their compute and AI demand.
It's so exciting, isn't it? And I think if you think about some of the kind of core skills that are needed, i.e. problem solvers, you know, and if you're looking at that JV with the utility companies, like, that's brilliant. It's just bringing in, you know, everybody in the ecosystem together. So that's a really refreshing kind of model, isn't it?
Like, I think one of the things about Echelon Data Centres, I think, that does actually separate us from others, um, we have leaders who are visionary, um, and we've been developing data centers in Ireland when many others couldn't, because we've been able to, you know, support the utility and the grid operators, by having, you know, power generation on site, but also we're bringing in on one of our sites, we're building a 220 kV substation and bringing in power from offshore, second phase of a wind farm development. We're reusing some existing sites that in areas that had that were hit economically by the kind of closure of those sites in the past. So in terms of sustainability, like right across every facet of sustainability, not just CO2 reduction, but also social and economic sustainability. That's something that we're very much engaged in, and that's where we're also going to be working on some repurposing of some existing facilities, and seeing basically how we can continue to deliver at scale, but like essentially do that in the most sustainable way possible, really. So there's lots of other kind of aspects of what they've done that's been quite visionary. But I suppose back to the initial point of the JVs with Iberdrola, and entry into various markets and the partnerships that we're building. Like there's a level of innovation and just a vision there that our senior leaders and our partners in Starwood Capital Group as well are bringing to the table, which is really allowing us to grow very quickly, and develop really good sites for our customers.
It's interesting, isn't it? Is that there's that vision and innovation when it comes to, strategy, concept, design, and actually what that then means in terms of trying to, keep pace with the evolution of everything, but then equally the sustainability piece as well. There's a huge amount happening there, which is fantastic, isn't it? And ultimately that comes back to the socioeconomic point that you mentioned there with regards to it creates jobs, and actually there's that much wider benefit to the broader public, which is fantastic.
Yeah, so there's win-wins. So like if you can, some operators perhaps might just want to develop a site, get those holes ready for service and generating revenue as quickly as possible. That's clearly important. But if you can look beyond that and ensure that you kind of, leave a minimum trace on the environment, and even do what you can to support the environment, by building substations to bring energy from offshore wind farms. That's not just for the data center, like that's supporting the national grid. That has benefits beyond just the data center development itself. And there's various other initiatives as well. That's just one example. But yeah, like if we can, and that's what we have been doing, is that we've been supporting the local grid as well, rather than being kind of an impediment or a drain on it, which is, there's many accusations being bandied about, particularly in Ireland, and that we're using up all the power in the country. That's not correct. We're actually doing a lot to support it and improve a kind of a grid that's in bad need of further development and investment. It's actually those partnerships that can really actually improve, and the development and adoption of more sustainable technologies as well. And I think that there is a huge amount of progress across the data center industry, and a lot of operators and the hyperscalers are investing really heavily, and those technologies are not just being deployed for data centers. They're being deployed right across other developments in society, and it really is supporting the greater good.
And I think that's going to attract the future generation as well, who are super passionate about legacy and sustainability. Sorry, Ollie, I jumped in there.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Oh, there you go. Who'd have thought it? Who'd have thought we've been working together for too long?
Minds think alike, yeah.
Yeah. Listen, we have absolutely loved hearing what your career journey has been, Michael, and also the work that Echelon are doing, and with all the innovative and the visionary work that's happening, that's going to create really exciting careers. So we're very thankful for you sharing the experience that you've got and the insight that you bring with you. Thank you very much for your time.
Very much, Sarah. And Ollie, pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you very much indeed, Michael. That was brilliant. Thank you.